We now welcome you to Startups Uncensored number 35, featuring Patrick Llewellyn and DocsTalk CEO Jason Nazar.
Welcome to the guests. Let's welcome Patrick officially, Startups Uncensored number 35. Relatively open format. You and I have no idea what we're going to talk about.
We do not.
No questions pre-planned. Generally, we kind of have a conversation about, a little bit about you and your background, talk about trends that are kind of interesting, and then the things that are kind of most important to the audience here. So just to give you a quick sampling for the audience, how many of you right now are actively running your own company or plan to start your own company in the next 3 months? It's got a room full of entrepreneurs. How many of you have already used 99designs? That's kind of cool. That means cool. A lot of people here tonight we can sign up as customers. Yeah. There's got to be some affiliate codes, super secret CEO affiliate code that you have that we can give away. All right. Absolutely. It's actually hidden in the box of matzah. Yeah. That is a Jewish afikoman joke for this, and so none of you are Jewish because otherwise you'd be at home celebrating Passover. So that's kind of it. We're going to jump in. And just by also show of hands, how many of you are looking to raise money for your company in the next 3 months? All right. So that gives you a little bit of flavor. That's what we'll kind of tailor the discussion to. Sure. But with all that said, welcome for joining us, and tell everybody a little bit. Why don't we start off with, for those folks that aren't familiar, what is 99designs today?
Sure. So 99designs today is the largest marketplace in the world for connecting graphic designers with small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Are you going to be doing that fake accent the entire time, by the way?
Yeah. Normally I would open up with a g'day and wrestle a crocodile, but there's so many Australians in LA, it's not worth it, right?
All right, so back to 99designs.
All right, yeah, back to 99.
My fault. I apologize.
Yeah, it's cool. So we're a little Aussie company that's moved into the US. So we started in Melbourne in 2008, but we were a spin out of a larger company called SitePoint.com. I was telling Jason a little bit about this. So, I think to understand what 99designs is, it's actually fun to talk a little bit about how we started, because we were started by a forum of graphic designers who were playing a game for fun called Photoshop Tennis. So essentially, one designer would create a fictional brief, and then another designer would essentially serve a design back to them, and then they would essentially have this collaborative design experience. So this is started in about 2005.
And this was in Melbourne?
This is in Melbourne. So SitePoint has always been an international community. In fact, always skewed heavily towards North America and white men interested in the web, essentially. Just to be very specific. It was, when we first started surveying them, it was like 77%, 25 to 35. And people who were interested in the how-to, like learning about how to code my first website, how to design my first website, how to advance on that. And so SitePoint was this really interesting resource for this community of designers and also developers. And it was in the designer forum thread that this behavior was happening. And so essentially, we're the product of something that happened naturally. So one day in this game of tennis, one of the designers has posted in the forum thread, I need to get a logo done for a client. I've promised him one as part of a website job. I don't really like doing them. You guys seem to love doing them for fun. How about you submit your ideas to my brief, and if I pick one of you, I'll pay you. And the designers were like, this sounds awesome. We do it for fun. We'd love to do it for money. And so essentially, that's how our business model started. And so today on 99designs, a large proportion of our work is this contest concept. So entrepreneurs post their brief about what they need to get done, be it a logo, a website. Basically anything the designer can do has been created on our site. We've seen everything from Bon Iver's tattoo design to Dish Network's van coverings to billboards to but lots of logos, lots of websites, helping lots of small business owners. So you post what you're looking for, and then our designers start iterating in real time and they're submitting their ideas to you. And at the end of that, you shortlist a few that you like, you work with them intensely. Typically the process is just over 7 to 10 days, and you pick a design you love and everyone's happy. We've helped facilitate the handover of copyright, we pay the designer, and that's our marketplace model. And it's
a contest based, right? So
correct.
You submit something as well, typically some kind of business person, but not necessarily. Yeah. You say, I want to get X designed, I want to get a logo designed, I want to get a web page designed, and then multiple designers kind of will show you what their concepts are, what their final designs are. You pick the one you want, and that's the only person you end up having to pay.
Exactly, but typically that's exactly right. And the process is whittled down, so there's like an open call period where you can start to see whose ideas make sense and whose design styles you like, and then we have then a second phase where you just work exclusively with 3, 4, 5, 6 designers that you really like to refine their concepts, and then you pick the one you like out of that.
How many? So when officially did 99designs start?
So we officially launched in February of 2008. So we just celebrated our 5th birthday. Thank you. Today we actually celebrated $50 million of payout, so that was pretty fortuitous. And so we kind of look, that's the metric that means the most to us, because a lot of what we do is about facilitating this commerce between entrepreneurs and designers, and so for us that's a very public thing. We've had over 200,000 designers submit a design in a contest. We've had over 200,000 contests.
Over 200,000 contests. Wow.
Yeah, so we just, that we celebrated a week and a half ago or something. So it's kind of a period for milestones. A little bit more about our history. So we started in Melbourne. For 3 years, Melbourne's a lot like LA, not really. But in some ways it is, in that we have Australia basically has no venture capital community. I think LA has a much stronger venture capital community, but it's not San Francisco, right? It's kind of, there's not money dripping from trees. And so for the first 3 years of 99designs' existence, we didn't raise a cent. So really what we focused on, we were the archetypical bootstrapped startup. We focused on building the best product we could, delivering a good customer outcome, and we spent no money on marketing. So essentially all of our growth was facilitated through this naturally occurring word of mouth behavior. And so today it still accounts for about 70% of all of our customers are coming through this naturally occurring referral. And that's partly because of people like you who are really excited about what you're starting. And so typically when you get your logo, and hopefully a few of you have been through this experience just recently, it's a pretty exciting time, and it's probably the first thing that you've got that signifies that you're starting on this journey of starting your business. And so that is a fun time. You're talking to your friends. If we were selling you something 2 years into being an entrepreneur, I think it'd be a different story. We're very lucky that we're getting you at the beginning of the startup cycle, and so that's what's fueled our growth. And then for designers, it's the same thing. We became a resource for these designers who are all around the world. Last year we paid out to over 150 countries. All time we've paid out to 196 or something, so it truly is a very global platform.
What are the most typical projects that people post on 99designs, besides logos?
So logos, websites, apps. Apps is growing fast, and then business identity.
To design an entire app.
Correct, or the front screen, or the icons, or a part of it, but typically people are getting screens designed. Yeah.
And then do they turn in a wireframe or just a written concept of what they're looking to do? Or both?
Or both, yeah. So it depends on how sophisticated the person looking for that app is. So we'll see, highly complex wireframes, complete storyboards posted.
So you've had entire web applications built, designed through 99designs.
Yep.
So someone will turn in maybe, 20 wireframes and
yep. And typically what we'll see on 99designs is you will submit the front page or a couple of pages, find the designer that you love, and then go off platform or continue to work on our platform. We have a one-to-one payment tool, and then work. So rather than getting everything designed in a contest model, you basically refine it, find the designer whose style you love, and then you go off and work with them and complete it. And so we've had lots of designers end up meeting entrepreneurs like you on our platform and then becoming intimate parts of the team, either full-time employees, co-founders. This sort of stories always amaze us.
You set the range, right? What you're looking to pay for, right? Mm-hmm. What's the minimum that?
So the minimum for a logo is $299.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's the typical payout, right? What's the typical project come out to be? What's the median? So
the median's like close to, it's like $450. Yeah. So people are typically going upper scale. Yep. It's pretty like you. We have bronze, silver, gold. We have a custom, so if you want to dial in any price that you want, you can.
So let's talk about when you were very first starting out. It's 2008, and at this point, you're not even with the business, right?
No.
So you came on later as CEO, and there's two founders, right? Matt
so
and Mark.
Yeah. So Matt Mitrovic.
How did they solve that chicken and egg problem, right? They both needed to get the customers that would be willing to pay for these design services, and they needed to get the designers who would come on the platform. And then why were designers originally, before anyone, it's clear to see why designers today would do a design on spec through 99designs, it's such a large marketplace. But why would designers, when you were first starting out, be willing to do that design on spec?
So let's talk about getting the balance of our marketplace, and then I'll answer the design. So the balance part was actually really cool because there was a developer forum on SitePoint as well. And so initially, this naturally occurring behavior of the designers sourcing work from each other using this contest model was just completely naturally occurring, right? And it was just amongst themselves. And so the designers were validating this as a way of sourcing work and working out who they liked in the community and who they wanted to work with and who had good ideas. Then the developers heard about this going on, and so they started to swarm in because they were like, this is a great way to get website designs, logos done, etc. And so we were lucky, and in fact, we were able to balance our marketplace in the beginning, both through these two natural sources, these two forum threads. And so that is always the challenge with creating a marketplace. I think it's one of the reasons why we've grown to be the largest without raising money, where we've had other competitors. One of our favorite competitors, or not favorite, but one of our competitors actually got their logo designed on 99designs and then raised $3.5 million from US-based investors with their groundbreaking business model. And I think what we've seen is that the power of the community and having that organic base was much more powerful. And so we would have paid out 15, 20 times more than they have in the course of that. So raising money wasn't the solution to building the community, having a balanced community, and then really focusing on executing and build great tech.
So what did you really do early on to nurture that community? It sounds like at first it just kind of started happening, but then what did you do to turn it from 5, 10, 15, 20 folks that did this into a real community?
So it started already. The real community, the forums were very vibrant. SitePoint was an Alexa top 1,000 site back in 2005. It was, in fact, I think its peak rank was around 300. And so it already had a large audience. So these communities weren't 20, 30, 40. They were hundreds, thousands to begin with. These forums were very active. And so we were able to take that. I think I want to answer your question about why designers were participating in it and why they still participate in it. It wasn't about getting paid, right? It was about having fun and developing ideas in a community aspect, right? So the whole notion of this Photoshop tennis was just to see how other people would solve a fictional brief and how ideas are created and improve skills and get tips from other people within the forum on how to become a better designer. And so that community behavior is something that we've really worked hard to continue to foster. And that's partly why we still have thousands and thousands of designers join every month, is because they're looking to become part of that. They are students starting out, or they're people who are in between jobs, freelancers who are looking to get some additional income. And they also want to learn, participate, feel a sense of something. And so that's partly why. Yeah.
And so tell a little bit of the story of when you came into the company and then what the process was where you really kind of ended up becoming CEO.
So I joined in September of 2009. So I think we were 8 people then. And so, but I'd known Mark, our co-founder in Melbourne, for a long time. I think we may have first met in about 2005.
And you said you had been doing investment banking.
Correct. So I came out of like a very boutique corporate advisory. The really hard stuff to do, helping entrepreneurs raise their first $5 million or helping companies sell for 15 to 50 million. So it was lots of, so my daily task was to be next to an entrepreneur doing what was most important to them at that time, because you guys are all pretty self-absorbed individuals. If to start a business, you have to be slightly crazy and and very passionate. And so I got to witness that firsthand on a daily basis, and that's why I actually loved that part of that job, because I wasn't working for big corporations where it was a ton of managers at middle levels making decisions about things that didn't mean a lot at the end of the day to them. What I was doing was helping people, you know, chase their dreams or realize their dream.
Were the two co-founders pretty technical? Were the original developers on SitePoint and 99designs? So
Mark's background, he studied computer science. But I don't think he's written code for a very long time. So Mark's background, Mark is by far and away the best, product guy you've ever met. Like, sort of his intuition around product marketing and product market fit is incredible. And so he's founded.
What's an example that makes him so good? I love when people tell me somebody's amazing at product. Yeah. Like, can you give a specific example of what makes him great at product?
I mean, one of the big things that makes him great is being very decisive, right? So he has a clear view of what it is that he's trying to solve. He intuitively gets product market fit. So he looks, he observes, and he thinks about for some time, okay, I think this is the best way forward. And then he just gets on and gets it done, right? So most of product is actually around, especially in the early days, is around executing and getting it live, and then reacting to feedback and working out have I built something that has real value? And so that's what I think he's been great at. I think that he's been good at scaling teams, but for him, his favorite part of the development process is when it's him, two developers and a designer, right? So it's that early ideation, and I think it's kind of, there's some magic to it. Like, it's hard to describe. Like, I can't say, all right, well, this is all of the things he's done, but what I've observed over a number of years is that ability to be decisive, pick a quality, intuitively understand what's going to be important, and then getting it out super fast. Like, he is a great proponent of the minimum viable product and just getting it out and testing it, but he's not super driven by metrics. It's not testing, it's just like immediate feedback. And because we're not raising money in Australia, because there's nowhere to raise money from, or very few places, to working out how to monetize very quickly so that you can live to fight another day. And so, I think that's a lot of his strengths. Cool.
So just out of curiosity, because I want to relate this back to your experience. How many of you here are currently working in a startup that you didn't start yourself? A team of 10 or less. All right, so we got a handful of folks.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was it like coming in and running a company where it seems like you had two really engaged co-founders? Can you talk about that process, and how did you make that work? Because that sometimes seems like it can be a recipe for some tension.
Yeah. So the good news for us is that Mark loves the beginning, and then after that, he doesn't love it so much. And so from 5 people on, he doesn't lose interest. I mean, he's always been super passionate about our business and still is engaged today, but he doesn't really like managing people and the process of doing that, and all of the processes that comes to scaling. So Mark now has, I think, 3 businesses and is always starting a bunch. So SitePoint's still active. Him and Matt have built a business called Flipper.com, which is the largest marketplace in the world for buying and selling websites. And so it was a naturally occurring behavior.
Talk about the kind of websites that are bought and sold on Flipper and how much they sell for.
So I think the average transaction value on Flipper right now is about $1,500. So they are very small websites. I think the largest has been sold is about $400,000. I mean, Mark just sold a website on there.
These are like folks' blogs, right?
Yeah, they're blogs, they're special interests.
So if you've got a website that you have or that you're looking to buy, you can go to flipper.com, check it out.
Yeah, so and this was naturally occurring in the developer community. So they were building stuff, and then they'd get bored, and then they would trade them amongst themselves. So it would be like, cool, I've built a blog on, dog grooming, I have X amount of traffic, I'm converting it via this, but I've lost interest in it. And then someone else was like, I love dog grooming, go buy it, and then, ramp up the content. Or people would, it's like property speculation, essentially. One man's, no longer wanted is someone else's, opportunity. And so definitely what we're seeing is this trading up. So you're seeing a lot of developers create stuff, a lot of marketers seeing some opportunity, buying them, fixing the facade a little bit. Sometimes it's as much as slapping on a coat of paint, maybe getting a new logo, repositioning it, doing some work in search, and then they'll go and sell it. So there's lots of this trading going on.
So was there ever any tension or difficult part about you running a company that some other folks had started?
No, I mean, there's always. I mean, I think the challenges are just communication. I think communication's a challenge for any business that grows. And so, just to complete my story a little bit, so I joined when we were 8. I think we were about 9, and then I flew to San Francisco to join our one guy in San Francisco and start our office there. So immediately I was flipped into a startup mode again. Like we had our first dingy little office. Mm-hmm. We had, I sold my house in Australia and moved my family, and I got little kids across the ditch, and so took a big risk, right? Like,
why did you have to move to San Francisco? Why couldn't you have kept running the business out of Australia?
It's hard. I mean, there's a number of reasons why. I think this stems back to why we were a good fit together.
Were most of your customers in the US?
Yeah, so 75% of our customers at that point were in the US. So providing customer support from Australia is challenging. The time zones don't really overlap so well. This is where we moved to Silicon Valley for a reason. There's a lot of money there. It's also where all of our potential partners would be. And ultimately, the founders had now been running a business. They started SitePoint in '99. So they've been running a business for 10 years. They hadn't raised any external capital. I mean, not hadn't. In 2000, they raised a little bit of angel funding from a couple of friends. One of them happened to be my friend, so I actually learnt about SitePoint way back when at the very beginning. So where was I? I was moving, moved my family, moved it here, and so I was in a startup. So me and Jason Aiken were the two guys on the ground, and then we hired 2 support guys. And so our first inclination of why to be in San Francisco was provide real-time support and put a phone number on our website and start talking to customers and trying to really understand who they were, right?
And how many employees do you have today?
So now we're 85 or 6. And so San Francisco is now our biggest office. So I think we were 45 people. We had 2 people start this week. So 45 people in San Francisco. We have a team of 6 in Berlin. So we bought a little business last year in Berlin. And we've been growing that team. We have a couple of folks in London and one in Paris and a couple in the Philippines. And then we have just over 30 in Australia. So we still do all of our development is done in Australia, and some customer support and other business stuff. But then San Francisco has become our hub. So now we have a big support team, a big community team, finance, marketing, etc. is all run out of.
So I want to come back in a moment to some of the kind of leadership lessons that you've learned scaling a company up. But one of the things that I think is important to talk about the story. So 2011, you raised the first outside capital. You raised a lot of money. How much did you raise in 2011?
So we raised over $35 million.
Got it. And a lot of that didn't necessarily even just go into the business, but helped in the secondary, take out original investors, shareholders, everything. It seemed, I think the model of 99designs is one that is really important, especially for a lot of LA companies, which is, go as long as you possibly can. And you didn't even need to raise money because you needed it to run operationally. Mm-hmm. Talk about the first year or 2 of the business. What were the 2 or 3 most important things that you did to be able to get it to a point where you could raise $35 million that you didn't even operationally need? I mean, that's a pretty unique story amongst consumer technology.
Yeah, I mean, so one, we deal in that grey space of small business, and are they consumers or are they small business owners, right? So we kind of slightly B2B, so we're able to monetize, I think, a little bit more easier than pure consumer plays. I think, for us, the reason why we didn't raise money earlier was because we didn't know what to spend it on. So we were very much this lean startup, so it was about, solving problems that we were learning about from the community that we were developing. So most of our product development is always reactive to either an opportunity that we see from the way that the community is behaving or just, feedback. So like from day one, it was, how did we build our business? The first iteration was the forum thread just charging $5 to list in it to see if people would just disappear or whether they would stick around. And so from there, that iteration has been kind of the most important lesson. So
how many people paid originally when you charged for the forum? What percentage of folks paid?
Well, you had to pay if you wanted to list, right? So it was all or nothing. So that was, part of it. It was like, okay, so the brave step there, once again, kind of was like, all right, this could kill this off completely and there'll be no opportunity.
And how did you come up with the initial pricing for what did you allow people to post a project for any price?
I think, yeah, that's a good question, because we're going right back, and I don't have all of the historical knowledge. I mean, I know how we came up, like our listing fees were literally just stab in the dark, looking at, who else was doing what, and then testing that pricing to see whether demand would drop, right?
Do you publicly disclose what % you share with the designers? Or is it kind of a sliding scale?
It is very sliding. So it's kind of as low as like, 5%, and then high, and then goes into the 30s, depending on the level of support that we provide.
And then what's your philosophy? I mean, once somebody finds a design they like, do you encourage, how do you really stop the entrepreneur and the designer from going off platform and working together? Do you care if that happens, or do you want to find a way to kind of be that middle point like an Elance or a Guru would to manage that whole process? Because obviously there'd be more revenue in it for that.
Right. So in the beginning, we were very focused on facilitating this matching. So internally, we think of ourselves as a dating site for designers and entrepreneurs. And so if they met in a contest and then wanted to go off and continue their relationship, then we encouraged it. And in fact, when you rang our call center in the early days and said, hey, I've just got a logo done and now I need some business cards, we'd say, well, why don't you PM, private message the designer who created the logo and see if they're interested in doing that work for you. So we were all about facilitating this relationship, because what we realized is, designers were speccing some time up front and submitting these ideas, and so there's an opportunity cost to that, right? And so they were essentially doing this as a lead gen opportunity for them, and we wanted to make sure that we facilitated and did the best we could to continue that relationship and help it, because that's also part of it. A lot of our designers, quite frankly, don't love communicating with customers, and so the reason why they love our interface is because we've helped them get better at that. We help guide them through a very set process. So that's really helped it work. Yeah.
That's great. And so today as part of the platform, do you allow to kind of manage that relationship post contest?
We do. So our aim is to continue to facilitate ways to connect. And so we're building tools all the time to do that, and improving our platform and improving our processes. We're still very inwardly focused in that we learn so much from what's going on our platform, and we have a new design uploaded every 4 seconds now, 24 hours. So there's always thousands of designers connected and lots of customers coming through. And so we're always learning from these interactions. So we're trying to build these tool sets. So, our MVP product for this connection was a basic invoicing tool that we released a little over a year ago, which was to facilitate this, because we were getting designers and customers saying, hey, this is great that we've met someone, but now, I've actually met a guy who's based in Serbia, and he's now asking me to pay him via Western Union, and I don't know how to do that, I don't want to do that. And we're like, okay, cool, we'll facilitate that, because that's what we've been good at. We provide this payment mechanism and we pay out in lots of flexible ways. And so we're like, cool, we created an invoicing tool. And so now we're building a raft of tools around different ways to connect.
Where do you see the future? In 3 years from now, how is 99designs different than what it is today?
So I think the real difference will be right now 99designs is, we're known for this contest model. And in 3 to 5 years, I hope that we're just known for being the best community of designers in the world, and it's facilitated through lots of different mechanisms. So our aim is to continue to work on the different ways in which designers and entrepreneurs meet.
So you might even help in literally placing designers in companies.
Correct.
Just literally the best community of designers ever.
Ever. And I think what we've proven is that we're pretty good at helping them transact and develop these relationships. For some of the criticism that we receive around our business model, I don't know any other startup that's paid out $50 million to designers in 5 years. And I don't actually know many other agencies or other more established businesses that facilitate this interaction that have done that. So I think we feel like we've got a bit of a handle on that mechanic. Now what we want to do is continue to build tools to make it easier and different, because what we realize is the one mechanic we have is a really cool way to meet. Like, we kind of think of it as, you know, a nightclub. And so there's a lot of interaction, there's lots of people, you can meet a lot of people in a very short period of time, but it's not necessarily the greatest way to have a relationship.
How many designers do we have in the audience? Raise your hand if you are a designer. Because I bet there are a lot of folks in the crowd, they're gonna want to chat with you afterwards.
Yeah, cool.
It seems like this process of connecting, you know, entrepreneurs to really good design talent, and again, go talk to us if you want to work at DocStock, is a really difficult one. How do you know, like, what for you are the top 2 or 3 qualities that you know that this is just a fantastic designer, and how outside of 99designs are you seeing people really effectively source quality designers, and how will that play into what you guys want to do?
Yeah, there's big questions. I mean, I think that...
You got to step up your game. Now we're getting to the tough round. I thought no more softballs like in the beginning, right? Like, now we're getting to the real...
Yeah, the real meat of it. I mean, for us, I mean, finding a designer that meets your style is really hard. You know, I think for designers to find clients that they actually like is hard, because it is really a symbiotic, you know, relationship. It is much like a marriage, and I think it's one of the closest. Like, if you think developing is tough, but I think designing is the hardest art to master, and it's also the hardest one as the entrepreneur to express what it is that you're looking for. I think
let me jump. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in for a second.
Yeah.
What applications do you think are just really on the kind of the front, edge of design? A lot of people point to Path as kind of, you know, one of the great design teams and apps.
Yeah.
I actually just saw a mobile app called Circle. It's a new app that helps you kind of just figure out what friends of yours are close by. It's not even necessarily for dating. And I was like, wow, the design on this is great. What are some of the either online applications or mobile apps that you're just really impressed with their design these days?
I mean, we're big fans of companies like, you know, Basecamp, who also help facilitate project management. And, you know, like, we think that basically all of the things that 37 Signals has produced have a nice aesthetic. There's a simplicity to what they do that works really well. You know, other apps in our field, like, you know, we think that, you know, I think, I mean, I don't know, personally I feel like I mean, if you come to 99designs, you'll actually be underwhelmed by our visual design of our site. We are working to improve that right now. We've really been focused on functional design, and for us, our big team is UX designers. So we actually hired our first, you know, sort of pure breed visual designer only toward like middle of last year, because it was hard for us. We used our community a lot to just generate our visual designs. What we invested a lot in is UX design, and so I think, you know, there's, I don't know, like, personally, I think Google does a great job of UX design. I think, you know, I think the big apps are doing a great job, you know, like, because they're relatively easy to use. You know, there's a simple interface that they've mastered, and doing less is always the hardest part in, I think, any design. I think, I don't know how you guys feel, but like, one of the revelations for us has been really focusing on mobile design and trying to work to make our app work on a small device is helping our design process throughout our website, right? Because it's really,
you have to do less.
You have to do less. You have to do less.
Buttons,
right, right. And it's hard. What we've built is a very complex app over 5 years that's been iterated on, and it's sort of an MVP kind of, so it can get kind of large and a little bit bloated. So we're always looking at how can we simplify, how can we improve processes, to make our application work better for everyone involved, but also for us as business guys, it's like convert traffic, you know, make paid advertising work, all of the things that we kind of strive to do.
So talk a little bit about the management and leadership lessons you've learned as you helped grow that company from, you know, employee number 9 that you came into to now almost 100 employees. What are the kind of big lessons that you've learned along the way, and what are some of the either mistakes or hard times that you've personally had?
I mean, so the challenge that I think we've always faced is communication, because we, you know, as we've grown. We've grown from being a little Aussie company where we were all in one room to a slightly bigger Australian company with a very small US office. And then we've now morphed into reasonably large teams across the globe. And so for us, the big challenge has always been getting communication right and taking our culture of our organisation and applying it to the new organisation. So I think for us, we probably underestimated how difficult that was, you know, at one level. You know, like, I think you kind of feel like it's going to just happen, and we're pretty good at it. And all of a sudden you have 40 people or 50 people, and both of those teams are separated by time zones and 10,000 miles. And you think, well, the web, there's all these great collaboration tools, but ultimately what we needed to invest in was having the ability to do more face-to-face stuff. So,
but this was also your first time managing, right? I mean, you came from investment banking.
Yeah,
you probably weren't managing a bunch of folks.
Yeah.
How would you describe your personal management philosophy or style?
So style, I mean, I think it's like my philosophy in life is just, I'm very upfront, very transparent, and so therefore that's how we run the company. So every month we present our figures to our team. So on Thursday we'll be taking that through them. We have dashboards all over the place so people can see at any time what's happening. They can dive into granular stats. They can see broad-ranging stats on our board. So I've always been a firm believer in being transparent, treating people with respect. I mean, for us, you know, we have a very tight team, and I was able to learn from Mark. What I've been able to do is learn from Mark that he built teams a lot around this kind of aspect of family and, you know, making sure that people felt loved and engaged by the organisation. And so I've really strived to take that, and I think I think he'll say that I've done a great job of that. So, you know, we were able to, like when I first moved to San Francisco and we started hiring people, our first parties would just be at my house and everyone would stay over. And I think we've kind of we still have a little bit of that. And so building a strong culture has been something that I've had to learn on the fly, but it's something that by being transparent, by being completely honest, and then ultimately making sure that we're hiring people that we feel like we could really care for and love, you know, like literally, I think that it sounds perhaps over emotional, but I think that's how we feel, right? So we have this team that we've developed in two parts of the world that are close. Everyone likes to spend time together, and you spend a lot of time together when you're building a business, right? And so we've really focused on doing that to the best of our ability, and transferring that from Australia to the US has not been without some of its challenges, because, you know, my natural inclination is to drink a lot and swear a lot. I jest, but, you know, we are very direct, and I think we've kind of I've had to apply that and learn and build the team that also likes to be operating in that environment. I think, you know, we've been really lucky in that the management team that we've now got at 99designs, and I think I'm blessed that, you know, our CTO was the first guy to write the code on 99designs, and so, you know, our GM and COO who runs our Australian team, you know, he was like employee number 6 or 7. So we've all been together for a long time, and there's a lot of shared knowledge, and all of our developers have stayed with us as well. So we haven't lost any, over 5 years of our journey, we haven't really lost anyone. So we're able to retain our team and then build on it, and so that's, you know, that's the exciting bit.
So a couple kind of general industry questions, and then Laurel, are you around? We'll go in about 5-10 minutes to audience questions. Cool. I'm seeing that it's getting, it seems like the fundraising process is getting harder, and that terms are swaying away from super pro entrepreneur favorable, a little bit more to the median, maybe going to the other side, especially being in the Bay Area. You know, some people are talking about the Series A crunch. Are you seeing that happen?
I'm hearing it. I'm not that active in it. Yeah. And I think we needed to cool things down a little bit. I mean, the Bay Area still feels pretty bullish to me. You know, the indicators that I look at are like commercial rent has gone up 50% in 12 to 18 months. You know, there's a lot of wage pressure on hiring. Hiring is as hard as ever in the Bay. So I still feel like it's hyper competitive and there's still lots of people getting money, but I do believe it is harder. I think this notion of traction has really taken shape over the last couple of years, and I think the challenge for entrepreneurs, and ironically I've just spent 2 weeks in Europe and I was talking a little bit about this topic because it is interesting to people who are in places where raising money is tough, right? It's really important to make sure that if you're going to take outside money, that you have clearly defined milestones that you're going to hit with that money, and you've got to make sure that you hit them. And I think there was a period of time there where hitting those milestones, people were still getting funding. I think now what we're seeing is if you fail with that first angel round to get the momentum that you set out to, then raising that Series A is a lot tougher.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, right? I think we do all have to continue to focus on what is most important in the business, and it's super important early on that you work at, and it's hard, especially if you're, fighting to find exactly what it is to do, but, being as lean as possible and keeping some flexibility in what you're doing is, I think, the key to that. Our kind of mantras are always monetize as early as possible so that you can, you don't have to necessarily raise money and do more with less. I mean, look at you guys. You provide all of these amazing resources to small business owners, a lot of which is free or very low cost, right? 99designs can help people get identity at a relatively low cost. Amazon provides us with, all of us now, I'm on Amazon, yeah. Right? We're all using Amazon. And when you start, it's super cheap, right? And it can scale with you. And so you're able to have world-class infrastructure at a fraction of the cost that you were before. So I think it's actually getting easier in some ways to build a business leanly. And there's all of these amazing cloud services that you can take advantage of. And I think you have to do that. And we have a mantra still inside 99designs that we don't hire someone unless we have at least 2 times the work for them. So we're always, as an organization, we kind of always feel underwater.
Repeat that last point.
So the last point is, like, we don't hire someone unless we feel like we have at least 2x their job responsibility. So. And
do you tell them that in the hiring process?
Yeah.
You're doing the job of 2 people, just so you know.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Because we don't want them.
I say that because I often say that exact phrase to people as we hire them. Like, you're going to be doing the job of 2 to 3 people.
Because, and
but we're still only going to pay you the salary of 1 person.
Yeah.
It's a nice salary.
Yeah.
But it's a
and great perks. I've seen The Office, right?
But we feed them like 5 times the amount of food of a single person. It's amazing that everyone in DocSoc is not obese. Yeah. The amount of food that we feed people.
Well, it's the TRX bands, right? And the CrossFit training that you guys do at 4 o'clock, right?
We do a daily workout at DocSoc now at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm sure any of you can come by and join us if you can keep up. Yeah. They'll tell you about what they're doing.
Yeah. So, right. So that is part of it, because that helps keep everyone in the organization feeling slightly overwhelmed with the task ahead, which also makes you feel like a startup, because I'm sure, everyone put a hand up if they're feeling overwhelmed right now in what they're trying to do, right? And so that sense of it actually helps you build, that's part of what being a startup is, right? And you don't want to lose that. And I think you can lose that if you scale too quickly, and all of a sudden there's someone sitting over there, and 3 months later they're like, what's Bill working on? And if no one knows,
fucking Bill,
right?
We don't have a Bill in our office. What are some of the new applications what are some of the things that you're seeing? You're probably helping empower a lot of these through 99designs, but what are some of the kind of on the cusp new applications, whether it's mobile or otherwise, that you're seeing that's really interesting to you? Like what category or trend or products are interesting to you?
What's interesting to me is just seeing all of this mobile first stuff. So lots of people are bypassing, the web and going straight to the mobile, and that's an area that we don't know a lot about. So I'm learning a lot about that and seeing lots of really cool innovation. And I think that space, it's probably the most innovative space that we're seeing right now. I think the real leap forwards in design, interaction are happening, like you were talking about Path or whatever. These mobile apps, we're seeing, just an explosion there. I think, I'm personally pretty interested in things like what we're seeing with crowdfunding. I think, it's pretty symbiotic that using the crowd to fund new ideas. I think the product development, app development that we're seeing using collaboration and using communities is pretty interesting.
What kind of businesses do you think the contest model works well for? Because in your case, it's obviously been wildly successful, but I've seen a lot of other folks try to do this contest model and it just completely fails. Is there a secret sauce for when the contest model does work and when it doesn't work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the contest model works really well if the problem that you're trying to solve is reasonably well defined and can be executed in a well-defined piece of time. You know, I think one of the things that we've found, which has been great, like for design, is that, you know, getting concepts around a logo can be reasonably quick for a designer to start to get concepts out there, to start to learn what it is, the style that their audience is looking for, right? And so it's a nice defined problem that's worked well. I think where it gets grey is where what you're trying to solve for is a lot more complex. And so we see that even in our own platform. So it's a lot harder to get, you know, a sophisticated website design than it is to get stationary business cards or a logo, right, or a banner ad. And so I think as the process becomes, like the problem is harder to solve or more complex to solve, then I think using the crowd to do it can become more challenging. You know, there's an Australian company that is doing it called Kaggle, which is the 99designs, and that's how they pitch themselves, and they raised $12 million, which is great. The 99designs
it's kind of cool
data.
to be known now as the 99designs of, right? That must be pretty flattering to, you know, be the comparison when other people go to raise their money.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. It's kind of, it does show that what we've become known for is this contest model, and I think it definitely people have tried to apply it to things that it doesn't necessarily lend itself well to,
like dog grooming.
Correct. You know, I think, you know, but, you know, we've seen people apply it. You know, I think what you've done, you kind of disrupting, and other people have tried to disrupt using the crowd around legal documentation and, you know, making that accessible. So I don't know, how do lawyers think about DocStock? And do you know what I mean? Like, I think you can kind of get a sense of where it's going to fit well because you can see this typically very fragmented communities that they've been engaged with. You know, I think that's the power of the crowd, is when you're delivering a service it suits well to something that is hyper fragmented.
Got it. All right, Patrick, thank you for coming down here. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for being so open and transparent with us.
Hey, no
and
problem.
for making this another great event.